Hey YouTubers, welcome back to Digital Gigger. Today I am going to talk about my experience in Quebec as a digital nomad.
Digital Giga work from anywhere in the gig economy.
About a year ago I decided to go from Ontario, which is the province next to Quebec for those of you who are not from Canada, and try being a digital nomad for a whole month in Quebec. Now, there was two reasons I wanted to do that. One was for myself because Quebec is a very beautiful province and it's definitely worth traveling through and experiencing. And the other aspect to it was that I wanted to do a video at some point explaining some of the benefits and challenges of being a digital nomad traveling through Canada and especially Quebec. So, if you're coming from another part of the world to be a digital nomad in Quebec, then be prepared to pay a lot of money if you're staying in major cities like Montreal or Quebec City. They are tourist hubs. There is a lot of hotels and places to stay, but they also get filled up really quickly if you're doing it through the summer months. So, and you don't want to be in Quebec throughout the winter months because it's pretty cold and you probably won't get a lot of sightseeing done, although you might get a lot of work done because it is one of those things that you're going to be inside for a while. Now, the benefits of me having a car traveling from one province to the other was that I had my own transportation, which many of you guys might not have. So you'd have to keep that in mind if you're traveling in Quebec, that you're either going to have to pick a hub city to, a city to stay in and work out of that city, or you're going to have to find some transportation to get around. So I'm going to do two scenarios. If you're traveling from the US to be a digital nomad in Quebec, then you have the car, you have the ability to get around. If you're coming from Europe or from some other part of the world, then that's going to be a bigger challenge if you want to do camping and stuff like that, because you most likely would need to rent a car. So with that being said, this is how my trip started. I went from the Toronto area to Montreal, and I stayed a couple nights in Montreal. Hotels were booked and it was expensive. So I found online in a hotel that was in a convenient neighborhood that I liked and that had the amenities that I wanted. So I stayed at this hotel, and I was able to get a lot of work done from the Wi-Fi in the hotel. Plus, being a major city like Montreal, there was a lot of Wi-Fi at other coffee shops, Starbucks, obviously, McDonald's, and the Tim Hortons chain. So that was no issue finding internet or getting work done in Montreal. So then I decided to head up to Quebec City, another beautiful city in Quebec, and it's got old world charm. So I went up there, found a hotel, and did some more work out of Quebec City. So both cities beautiful, the trip from one city to the other, beautiful. And then I decided to do something different. I decided to go up to Saguenay, which is north of Quebec City, and check that out. So I went up there and I stayed again in a hotel. Then on the way back, I went near the St. Lawrence River and camped. So I was near the St. Lawrence River so I could go whale watching, and it was very beautiful. The weather was great, and it was more affordable to do that. So the first few days was just kind of sightseeing through the province, and then it was kind of more like figuring out how I could stay here the longest amount of time with the least amount of spending. And camping was the easiest answer to that, because it costs anywhere from $30 to $50 a night when you camp. So all I needed was a tent, or I could sleep in my car if I wanted, and I could buy my own food, and internet wasn't too bad because the campsite had internet, plus I was within driving distance to a lot of spots where I could pick up Wi-Fi, so that was no issue. So I did that, and I worked out of a campsite for about a week and a half, and then I kind of got bored of that location and decided to go down a little bit further back towards Quebec City and find another location down that way. So I stayed at another campsite. Actually, it was beside a church that's near Quebec City. Sorry, it skips my mind what the name of that church was, but it was very beautiful. Sacré-Cœur, I believe it was Sacré-Cœur. And I might be butchering that way I pronounced that. And there was a campsite not too far from there. Amenities weren't great, but I only stayed a couple nights, so it was lacking in the shower department. Water wasn't, it was kind of spotty, didn't work too well, and no electrical. I actually had no electricity. I had called and asked if they had an electrical site, and they ended up giving me a site without electricity. So, jiggling around, going camping, and then there was a couple nights where I actually stayed in cheap motels and made my way around the province and did some sightseeing. Then I headed down to Sherbrooke, which is another beautiful big city, or bigger city in Quebec. Did some work out of that city. There was a lot of coffee shops, there was a lot of stuff to do in that town. And then I headed down to an illuminated forest. It was really beautiful actually. This place was a forest that at night comes alive with lights and images. So I spent a couple nights down at the campsite near this illuminated forest, and then made my way back to Magog, which is another beautiful town with a big lake. That was one of the more interesting towns that I'd been to. So I stayed in that area for a bit, and then made my way back to Montreal, and then eventually back to Ontario. So traveling through the province, the couple things that I learned was that if you're a digital nomad, you can work from basically anywhere because there are internet connections, fast internet connections. There are a lot of places that you can find free Wi-Fi, and if you have a good cell phone, there's also good reception with phone companies in Quebec and Canada. So there was no issue with getting any work done from any of the locations that I was at. Now, I would say that if you're coming in from another country, that you really need to figure out if you want to do the camping experience, because like I said, there is a cost to renting a vehicle. So I would say that if you guys are looking for a beautiful place to visit and spend some time as a digital nomad, really explore Quebec. It was an amazing place. It's definitely worth visiting, and Canada has a lot of great places, but I found that some of the places I visited in Canada, every time I go back to Quebec, I found something new and something unique, and it has that European kind of charm to it. So if you guys are traveling to North America, definitely hit up Quebec. And if you're traveling from the US, you can go through Quebec and head out to the East Coast, because New Brunswick, PEI, and Nova Scotia are all beautiful provinces and also have great infrastructure, so you won't have any trouble working from any of these places. So it's sometimes people, when they think of digital nomads, they think of people traveling to far off lands, going to Asia, when in fact some people that are in North America have so many places that they can work out of and travel through that sometimes they forget that the not so exotic is sometimes also an amazing place to get some work done, relaxation, and to be your own person. We love being independent and working anytime we want to work, anywhere we want to work, and sometimes you discover great places from hearing other people's conversations, and believe me, Quebec is definitely worth visiting. So hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you have any questions, leave them down in the comments box below, and please subscribe to the channel, like, share, and subscribe. Those are the things that make the channel content be visible to other users, and we appreciate if you help us out and get the word out about digital giggers. And we'll see you guys in the next one, and keep on digitally making money anywhere you can.